Have you ever wondered what truly separates a normal day from the beginning of a nightmare? For most people, that line is invisible, a thin veil of routine and safety they never expect to be torn away. But sometimes, in the most ordinary of places, that veil is ripped to shreds, revealing a darkness that defies all explanation. Today, we're delving into stories where the mundane world collides with the terrifyingly real. Stories that will make you question the familiar and check your locks twice tonight. Our first story takes us to the quiet, unassuming suburbs of a small American town, a place where neighbors waved to each other and kids played in the streets until dusk. This was the world of the Harrison family. They were the picture of normalcy, a loving couple with two bright children, living in a home they had spent years building. But their idyllic life began to unravel in the most unsettling way. It started subtly. Objects would move on their own. A coffee mug shifted to the edge of the counter, a child's toy appearing in a room it was never in. At first, they dismissed it as forgetfulness, the simple chaos of family life. The incidents grew more frequent and more unnerving. Whispers would echo through the hallways when everyone was accounted for. The children started having identical nightmares of a tall, shadowy figure standing at the foot of their beds, just watching. Their daughter Emily began drawing disturbing pictures, a dark, faceless man looming over their house. When her parents asked her about the drawings, she would simply say, "He's the one who whispers." The family's sense of security was eroding day by day. They installed security cameras, hoping to catch a prankster or an intruder, but the footage showed nothing. Doors would creak open on their own. A cold draft would sweep through a locked room, and the whispers would continue, always just on the edge of hearing. The most chilling event happened one evening when Mr. Harrison was home alone. He heard a clear, distinct whisper right behind him say his name. He spun around, but the room was empty. The air was ice cold, ran out of the house, and didn't return until his wife was home. They were no longer just spooked, they were terrified. They were living in a house that felt occupied by something unseen, something malevolent. The family's once happy home had become a prison of fear. They eventually moved, leaving everything behind, unable to bear another night of the whispers and the watchful presence of the Shadow Man. To this day, the house remains empty, and locals who pass by claim to sometimes see a tall, dark figure in the upstairs window waiting. Let's travel now from a haunted home to a haunted highway. The A75 in Scotland is known as one of the most haunted roads in the country. For centuries, travelers have reported phantom figures, spectral animals, and all manner of terrifying encounters along this lonely stretch of tarmac. But the story of the Ferguson brothers is perhaps one of the most credible and frightening. One night in the late 1990s, Derek and Norman Ferguson were driving along the A75. It was late. The road was dark, and they were the only car for miles. Suddenly, a group of figures darted out in front of their car. Derek slammed on the brakes, bracing for impact. He was sure he had hit them. He and his brother leaped out of the car, hearts pounding, expecting to find a horrific scene. But there was nothing. No bodies, no blood, not even a scuff mark on the road. The figures had vanished into thin air. Shaken, they got back in the car and continued their journey, trying to rationalize what they had just seen. Was it a trick of the light? Were their eyes playing tricks on them? But the horror was far from over. A few miles down the road, their car was suddenly swarmed by what looked like a flock of giant screeching birds. They weren't normal birds. They were monstrous, with feathers that looked like tattered rags, and they slammed against the windshield with terrifying force. Then, just as quickly as they appeared, they were gone. The brothers were now in a full-blown panic. As they sped down the road, desperate to get away, a vintage car appeared out of nowhere and started tailgating them aggressively. No matter how fast Derek drove, the old car stayed right on their bumper, its headlights glaring. In a moment of terror, Derek looked in the rearview mirror and saw the driver, a skeletal figure with hollow eyes, grinning at them. With a final desperate burst of speed, Derek managed to pull ahead. When he looked back, the vintage car was gone. They finally reached the nearest town, pulling into a lit gas station, trembling and pale. They never drove that road at night again. The A75 continues to claim news stories, a permanent fixture in the landscape of true horror. Our final story is one that blurs the line between a chilling prank and something far more sinister. It involves the internet, a tool we use every day, and how it can become a conduit for pure, unadulterated terror. In the early 2010s, a college student named Sarah was living in an off-campus apartment. Like most students, she spent a lot of time on social media. One evening, she got a friend request on Facebook from a profile with no picture and a strange, nonsensical name. She ignored it, but the profile sent another request, and another. Annoyed, Sarah finally clicked on the profile. It was mostly empty, except for one photo album. The album was filled with pictures of her, pictures taken from a distance through her apartment window. One photo showed her studying at her desk. Another showed her watching TV on her couch. The most recent one was time-stamped just minutes before she saw a picture of the back of her head as she sat at her computer, looking at that very profile. A cold dread washed over her. Someone was outside her window. Or worse, inside her apartment. Her blood ran cold as her phone buzzed with a new message from the mysterious account. It simply said, "I like your hair," she screamed and ran out of her apartment, straight to the campus police. They investigated but found no signs of forced entry. They searched the area but found no one. The Facebook profile was deleted moments after she reported it, vanishing without a trace. Sarah moved out the next day, staying with friends until she could find a new place to live far away. She never found out who was behind the account, who was taking those pictures. Was it a stalker with a twisted sense of humor, or something else? The not knowing is what haunts her the most. The feeling of being watched, of her safest space being violated, is a fear that never truly left her. It's a stark reminder that in our hyper-connected world, the monsters are no longer just outside the window. They can be in our pockets, on our screens, watching our every move. These stories aren't just campfire tales. They are fragments of real human experience, moments where the rational world broke down and something terrible slipped through. From a family terrorized by an unseen entity in their own home, two brothers accosted by phantoms on a lonely road, to a student stalked through the cold lens of a camera, these accounts remind us that fear is a universal language. They tap into our deepest anxieties, the fear of the unknown, the fear of losing control, and the terrifying possibility that we are not always alone, even when we think we are. What do you think? Are these supernatural events, elaborate hoaxes, or something else entirely? Let me know your theories in the comments below. Thanks for joining me on this journey into the dark. If you enjoyed these stories and want to explore more of the unexplained, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you don't miss our next dive into the shadows. Stay safe, and whatever you do, don't look behind you.